Hello, and welcome to the Wild at Heart show, real, authentic, uncut here at Roland Media. This is a show for men, by men, about men. And thanks for tuning in. I'm very excited every time I bring up a new episode because it's so important for men to work on themselves and to become a better version of themselves, especially in these times. And well, I started this because I'm a man by myself, and I found out I'm not really having a balanced, happy life. Successful for an outstanding person said, okay, yeah, from outside it looks successful, is in business, is a family, stuff like that. But inside I was not happy. I was not balanced. So I started working on myself, and yeah, I started men's group because I found out that there are other men also have an issue on certain topics, and they need other men to talk about. So I did more than 50 shows for a US network, and now it's time to bring it on Roland Media. So thanks for tuning in, and please support this channel if you think it's really worthful and of value for men. So please hit the subscribe button and also the bell so you get a note or a message when there is a new upload available. Thanks a lot for that. Today's topic is a very interesting one, and actually I came across with this topic a year ago on a men's festival. The topic is called marrying the inner masculine and feminine energy. And I attended a course on this men's festival, which was facilitated by our today's guest, Richard West. So I'm very happy that he's here and shares his knowledge about marrying the inner masculine and feminine energy. What's exactly masculine energy? What's feminine energy? Not to confuse it with identity, or masculine identity or feminine identity. And you really benefit out of it to bring it in balance and how to do this. So stay tuned. We have Richard soon here. Thank you. Yeah, hello again to Wild at Heart, the show for men, by men, about men, real, authentic, uncut. And as mentioned, today's topic is marrying the inner masculine and feminine. I'm very happy that my dear friend is Richard here. He's a specialist. And I remember when I met him a year ago at the men's festival in Austria, he was just talking about this topic, and it was very interesting for me. So, Richard, thanks a lot for joining us here. Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation, Roland. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I always love to talk to you, and I always love to learn. Sometimes I say, I learn. Maybe I learn more than my audience. Maybe just for myself to learn and learn and learn. I love to learn. It's a never-ending story. Yeah,
Awesome.
you never be a master. You try to get closer and closer. So thanks again for coming. Marrying the inner masculine and feminine. This is not only for women, but also for men. I strongly believe a very interesting topic to have a deeper look at that. So let's start a little bit about let's start with the masculine energy. What is masculine energy, Richard?
Yeah. So when we define these energies, the important thing to understand is that it has nothing to do with men and women as genders. We hold masculine and feminine energies within ourselves to different degrees. So yes, men tend to have stronger masculine energies than feminine energies, but it's important to recognize that allowing our feminine sides to come through in an authentic way can really support our masculine energy as well. So to define these energies, we really have to go back to the source of what those energies really are, not the behaviors that come out of us, but what those energies really are at their source. And so the masculine energy we can see as what it does is it takes the inputs and the stimulus from its environment, and it focuses it and expresses it into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that also takes a certain amount of willpower. So you can see that will, that drive is a masculine thing as well. But that is essentially what it is in its purest form, is the the focusing of energy and the expression of that. You know, I make this sign with my hands because it, to me, the masculine energy is kind of it's a penetration. You know, you're penetrating the world with your uniqueness.
Absolutely. I'm very
Yeah.
happy, Richard, that you mentioned in the beginning it nothing to do with identity, because some people are confused with masculine or feminine energy and masculine or feminine identity is something different. So we have both inside as men or women, and it's about energies, it's about expressions. So, Richard, before we talk about the feminine energy, the feminine part, what is good about masculine energy? Why it's good to have certain amount of masculine energy, as you said, okay, you go forward, you penetrate to be successful and stuff like that. So what is good about it? What is bad? And what is too much? What is not enough?
Okay, so I would say the energy itself is not good or bad. However, it can be aligned or misaligned, and it's in its aligned form, it is very needed, because without it, we would not be able to be ourselves. We wouldn't be clear in who we are. We wouldn't be able to express ourselves. We wouldn't be able to affect our environment. Um, it's needed in order to have that clarity in that expression. Um, However, it can become distorted, and that's usually due to us needing situations to be a certain way or avoiding feeling uh, pain within them. And so it can become, let's say, too relied upon or too much. When you have too much masculine energy, then it becomes very controlling,
Mhm.
very dominating. And that's because you will want a certain outcome. You need that certain outcome in order to th think that you will feel happy from that. And so you do everything that you can to try to control other people or the situation around you to achieve that. And that's a distortion of the masculine. However, we can also see that sometimes people also ignore their masculine sides, and that can be done in women and in men. It's especially prominent in recent times because of the backlash due to the expression of what we talked about before, the controlling and dominating side. And so there's been a backlash, and now men and women are reacting by rejecting certain parts of their masculine sides because of guilt, usually.
Yeah.
Um, and that manifests as not being able to set boundaries, difficulties expressing your truth, and a lack of direction or focus.
That's what you see now in the society. I don't know all this gender, what's coming on LGBT or whatever. It's not. It's the abbreviation is. Uh, so we very often hear about toxic masculinity, and people say, "No, I want to stay away," and then I'm suppressing masculinity. It's something bad. It's not good. You said it's,
Right.
and then it's less back to the other side, and then we most women and men, they're not in or not balanced in the masculine energy. And as you said, they're not standing their point. They're not saying the truth. They're not brave enough to say what they believe. They're not brave enough to say what they feel. Uh, yeah, and that's what, and I think that's what's going on in our society. We see it in business, we see it in politics, we see it in every parts of our society.
Right. Mm. And there's some truth behind all of that, and the reason why many people are stepping back from their masculinity is because of a feeling of guilt. because they've experienced in the past that when they've expressed it, maybe it's caused pain to somebody else.
Mm.
And that was the case for me. I observed with my children that occasionally when I would come forth and be very masculine with them, but in a way where I was trying to control things because I needed certain things from the situation, it would cause pain. And therefore I stepped back on that from that and I became more compassionate and empathic.
Mm.
And that's the truth in the situation, is that in order for the masculine to express in an aligned and powerful way, it needs that compassion and empathic feminine energy behind it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I experienced in one of my previous relationship that my partner, she was actually I strongly believe to cover their lack of self-esteem, we have to come through with a very, because what happened in her past and all the trauma happened, so she was very, very hard in her masculine energy. And for me, it was difficult to deal with that. So in order not to kill her with my masculine energy, I went in a feminine energy, much more feminine.
Right.
Totally uncomfortable, absolutely. And she, after a while, also went totally uncomfortable because she said, you're not a man anymore. I said, but what shall I do? I was not in balance. She was not in balance. I was not in balance. So she was in a very strong masculine energy. I am a very strong feminine energy because I didn't want to, that there's exploding something, that this confrontation that's always coming up. And we are both very, very unhappy. But we I wouldn't say we could fix it, but we could heal it, or especially from my side, I could heal it. But what's about this in relationship when it's not in balance?
What was the question? Sorry.
What are your thoughts about when the masculine and feminine energy in both partners is not in balance?
Yeah. Well, I would say the most in the most successful relationships, there's usually a one side which is naturally more in their masculine and the other side which is naturally more in their feminine. Where this becomes unbalanced is where one side feels like they have to be more in the other one in order to support or balance out the other person's expression or pain or energy. So when it becomes inauthentic, then that's when the problems start arising.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know what your experience is, but I see it in many relationships that she's much more in her masculine energy for any reason. He's much more in his feminine energy. I see it in many marriages. She's dealing with everything, organizing everything. He's very passive. And actually, one of my other teachers also said, once you get married, they cut off your balls. And I see this more and more. Do you think the reason for that is because we have so many, actually in the past and still now, so many single moms and many men don't get enough masculine energy or role models about masculine energy because there's so many female, actually, yeah, in the beginning, being around with females, but females with a very strong masculine energy because they have to deal with the situation to be a single mom. That also requires a lot of masculine energy.
Exactly, yeah, and it's difficult as a man to come into that situation. I'm in a situation like that myself, where my partner is a single mum, and I'm coming into that, and yeah, that definitely contributes to it. I think not just in relationships, but in society in general, women have been, can we say forced? Not really. They've been incentivized to be more in their masculine because that's an energy which has been more valued in our society. However, the result of that is that it has diminished the importance of the masculine side of men. And I've noticed many times in many situations in my life, women who feel that they need to be more in their masculine in order to achieve something at work, or also single mothers. Um, it very often that masculine side then expresses itself in a distorted way. They become the patriarchy that they didn't like, and so as men, it's our responsibility to recognize that we need to step up and step back into that masculine role so that women can step back again. It's very easy as a masculine to do what I would call taking a bath in the feminine energy. It's very easy just to lie back and be taken care of.
Absolutely.
But and that's all well and good to a point, but then it comes to the point where you need to step forwards again and stand in your power.
I guess this is very important in a relationship, that a man is really in a well balanced masculine energy, so and give space to the women that she can blossom and live also their feminine energy. The topic is, Richard, marrying the inner masculine feminine. Can you explain a little bit what's the marrying of the inner masculine and feminine energy?
Yeah, so this is basically the recognition that these two energies act as like different poles on a battery within you.
Mhm.
So they're if you have both of them working with each other, then they're going to be driving your life. It's really like giving that life energy. And these energies can work against each other or they can work with each other. And by figuring out how to put them together so that they support each other within you, that can basically lead to much more clarity and confidence in who you are, a much better understanding of your environment, and therefore being able to harmonize with it, and generally more success in life, whatever you need to do. Yeah.
So when you say the marrying of the inner masculine and feminine energy, um, once you've balanced this, or you have this marriage, you've balanced this, uh, how will it change somebody's life in a positive way? Can you brought some examples, but you be more successful, and how can people realize in the beginning that something is changing, or would I say there's a healing process?
Yeah, well, you'll recognize that you will feel more yourself in every situation. I think that's the essence of it. You'll feel more yourself in every situation. You'll feel more at home, um, because you will be able to utilize both those energies. Not, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a conscious thing. It just becomes something that happens naturally. Usually, what I find is the feminine energy always kicks in first,
Mhm.
because that's the energy that opens up to the situation, takes in all the stimulus from the environment and holds it, and reads the flow, we can say. And then the masculine hones it and focuses and expresses.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Richard, how can let's go to a relationship, and it doesn't matter if it's a hetero relationship or a gay relationship. Uh, how can we switch from a masculine to a feminine energy when it's needed, or switch from a feminine to a masculine energy?
Well, it's basically about being able to recognize when that energy is needed. So there are times, for example, where your partner might be uncertain or unclear, um, or in an emotional process. Um, and they might need that focus of energy that the masculine brings, because you recognize that they're not getting anywhere. And there may be times where it is more prudent to step back and allow the situation to resolve by itself, or not resolve, but to move by itself, and to take into account everything that's going on in your environment so that you can react in a positive way to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really going to be about feeling into that, and it's something that you can switch between positive and masculine energies very quickly. It can happen. It can happen within a couple of sentences. You start in a feminine way and then you finish in a masculine way. For example, I I've termed it this phrase empathy sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a very difficult conversation or a conflict with somebody, then it's always, in my experience, beneficial to start with the feminine and try to see that situation from the other person's perspective, and make them feel understood, and then come in with a nice meaty layer of truth, and then finish it up with more feminine again. That's so it can happen. It doesn't have to be that you just focus on one or the other. It can happen very quickly, you know.
I do this in sales talks, when I sell something to a client, I always start with a very feminine energy to be open, to be
Mm-hmm.
big, yeah, to connect with the other person. And when it comes more and more to the close, and I use more my masculine energy, to go forward, to bring it to an end, to close up and let the customers sign up. And then once it's signed up, I go back to my feminine energy.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So, Richard, how can let's start with the man, or let's start with the woman. Let's start with the woman. How can a woman support a man to be more in a masculine energy when it's needed, and the other way around? What can she do to support him to be more in a masculine energy? What can she do to support him when it's needed to be more in a feminine energy? But let's say more in a
Mm.
masculine energy, because I guess that's really needed. What we talked about in the beginning.
Right, right, yeah. Well, I think I think it's about trust. You know, a woman needs to be able to trust in her man, and of course, then the man takes a certain amount of responsibility for that himself by being a trustworthy person. Um, but the way a woman can help a man to be in his masculine is to, let's use the word surrender,
Mm-hmm.
to surrender to that masculine and allow herself to be guided by it. And also to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much negative talk in the last years around masculine energies in our society that we need to start appreciating it when it's done the right way
Mm-hmm.
again, you know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to get some shitstorm, but what I see is that single ladies always about are always are blaming about toxic masculinity, and ladies in a relationship said, "No, I want more masculinity from my partner's side."
Right, right. But then they, in order to do that, they need to be able to step back and allow that masculinity to come through and hold space for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
That's so important. And then it's beneficial for both, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And I understand that it's not an easy thing if your experience has taught you that um, males who are expressing a distorted masculine energy is something that you don't want to be around. I completely understand that. But if your man is there and he wants to be in his masculine and he wants to protect you and he wants to guide you and he's doing that from his heart, then there needs to be a stepping back of um, control
Yeah.
in the situation, a trusting. Let's call it a trust in how that is going to be expressed.
And
Yeah.
how can a man support his partner when he thinks she needs more feminine energy? I guess it's about being more in your masculine yourself, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, is I mean, in order, these two energies are interacting with each other, so the answer is kind of the same in a way. It's to it- it's to create a space where the woman feels safe enough to be in her feminine.
Yeah. And what can a man do to support his partner when to be more in a masculine energy, meaning she's very creative, she has a lot of ideas, but she's never successful in business. So there's a lack of masculine energy. So how can a partner support his girlfriend or his wife uh, to to be more balanced in the masculine energy to be successful in whatever she's doing?
Um, well, I would say my personal opinion on this is that it would be to support her to realize her own masculine energy by reflecting it to her. So you're not taking on that role for her and saying you should do this, you should do that. What you're doing is asking questions or giving reflections which lead her to being more focused and clear in herself. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
got it.
it's empowering her by focusing the energy but not telling her what to do.
Yeah, because then there's some might become some resistance. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What happens when both partners are not balanced in with their masculine and feminine energy? What are the risks of it? What are they missing?
um well, they're missing the harmony. That's what's missing, is that not the harmony within themselves, which is then going to manifest as disharmony in the relationship.
Uh, uh,
You know, what comes then is it's usually as a result of a certain amount of codependency, meaning that um, you expect the other person to um, fulfill certain needs, so you give them responsibility for your well-being.
okay,
Yeah. And that attachment is what causes most of these distortions in the first place.
absolutely. And actually, if
Yeah.
you stay too long in an unbalanced one, what do you see any kind of impact on your mental or your physical health?
If as you mean, if there's an unbalanced
Yeah,
masculine and feminine,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, if you have an imbalanced or distorted masculine, then it tends to lead to um, conditions which would be associated more with anger, such as liver problems, for example,
Mhm.
um, and and general destructive patterns in your life. Whereas if you're imbalanced in your feminine, then it would tend to lead to more things like anxiety and depression because there's a lack of trust in life itself and in yourself within that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, Um, Richard, one of the other episodes we talked about how to deal with triggers. When we are triggered, what is more helpful, a feminine energy, a masculine one? Can you say yes to this one, or it's again the balanced one?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it's definitely going to be the feminine energy because the most powerful way to, or in my opinion, the only way to heal triggers is to fully accept your feelings and the situation as it is.
This is a feminine energy, of course.
And this is yeah, exactly. This is feminine energy because you're not trying to insert anything into that situation. You're taking a step back, you're taking everything in, and you're accepting exactly how you feel in that moment.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's a very feminine thing. That's going to be extremely powerful to overcoming triggers. After that is when the masculine kicks in, because when you've done that, when you've processed that pain to a certain degree, the masculine kicks in and starts asking questions. What was it that I was attached to? What outcome was I attached to? What do I really need in this situation? How can I express that? And then the masculine will come in and express those boundaries that may need to be expressed.
Absolutely. I think we could talk hours and hours of masculine and feminine energy because it's so important topic. So for our audience who want to learn more about themselves or their relationship, are there any upcoming events from your side? Any webinars or seminars about marrying the inner masculine and feminine energies?
Sure, I tend to do a few a year, and they've all been online up until now. But the next event that's planned is on the 16th of July, on the Friday in Vienna. It's a 2-hour workshop in the evening. And yeah, we'll be diving deeply into these energies and how to express them and how to be with them in a balanced way. But I'm also available for one-on-one sessions.
Mhm.
If people want to talk about more personal aspects of their lives and relationships, then that can be um, a, a a more safe container.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, I will give a link in the description so you can link to Richard's website and you see all the information there, and you can also book the sessions with him. Richard, a question. As a couple, when you realize we are out of balance and we want to work on
Mhm.
that, would you suggest to show up as a couple in a workshop or in a coaching, or is it better to start him and her separated and maybe later together? What is your approach?
Um, I would recommend a combination. So it's definitely important to work things out individually, However, there need to be regular check-ins between the couple to discuss realizations, progress, to ask questions, and these kind of things. And that can be, it depends on how unbalanced the relationship is. If there's already some basis of communication there, then that can be just done between the couple. But very often there's patterns which build up over time, and they need to be unraveled layer by layer. And that is definitely helpful to do in a therapy setting with a mediator.
Okay. Would you say show up as a couple in the beginning, and then doing an individual sessions, and then, as you said, doing feedback sessions together, and have a look at on the progress?
Yeah, personally, I would say the first session can be done as a couple, and then the following sessions would need to be done individually.
Yeah.
And then you can come back after a few and come back together as a couple and do it that way.
Okay.
That's how I would do it.
Makes sense, because when I do coaching, I very often recognize or realize that people come to me kind of fixing a problem, and then they immediately try to fix the problem from somebody else.
Right. Right.
And stop working on themselves,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The self-work that's the way to go, unfortunately. That's yeah.
Private, but also in business, and I teach something how they can, I don't know, realize about their triggers of stuff like that when I do our business workshop about triggers and stuff like that. And for managers mostly, and then they think immediately, not about themselves, but some of the team members, and try to fix that. I said, no, start with yourself first. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
You want to do one and then teach one.
Yeah.
And it's the same relationship. I remember years ago with my first wife, I went to actually, I attended a workshop. It was incredible. I learned so much. So the year later, when this guy came over from the US again, I invited her to come with me. And she couldn't take anything over. She said, "Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said?" I've been there. I really have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it comes down to responsibility again, It's all about taking responsibility for your own stuff. That's the only way that healing is gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom. Thanks a lot. I always learn a lot when I'm in a conversation with you. And yeah, I also encourage our audience, please not only hit the subscribe button and the bell, that helps me and the team, but also go on the link from Richard West and see what he's offering. I highly appreciate his workshops and his coaching. Richard, thank you again. Have a good day.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this was Richard West on the, for me, very fascinating topic, marrying the inner masculine and feminine energy. And as I said in the beginning, I met Richard and facilitating this topic on a workshop at a men's festival a year ago. So I listened several times to him, but to be honest, every time I listen to him to this topic, I learn something new. I realized something new. And I said, okay, let's work on this. Let's focus on this. It's a lot of value out of there. If you have the same feeling, more than welcome. I highly appreciate your feedback. Send me a note or get in contact with me or send a feedback or whatever. And you can also email me or here on the channel. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This really helps me and the team to do more work, more beneficial work for men, and also hit the bell so you get a notification when there's a new upload available. Thanks a lot. Stay healthy and safe, and see you at the next episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.